Welcome to Toffee TV, joined by Cam. Ned's here as well, as we do what we're doing every day at the moment, which is having a chat about the Everton managerial update. Seems to be a different name each day. They seem to be jousting for who's the favourite for the job. Lots of stories coming out. But obviously, let's begin with Christophe Galtier, because he was a name that come to the fore early evening, really, because Luis Campos, the former Lille sporting director, spoke about him. Spoke to Alan Myers, didn't he? And said that Galtier would be a perfect fit for Everton. Just won the league with Lille, of course, breaking PSG's recent dominance. Someone who did very well at Saint Etienne as well, but obviously a small budget and all that. He was assistant manager at Portsmouth, I think, as well, early in his career. So he has had Premier League experience in England. But he's someone, obviously, who left Lille. He was mentioned immediately by a few people, saying, it'd be great to get in. But then the links were very quiet until yesterday. But given that there's about 723 names linked with the Everton job, Cam, where are you in terms of Galtier?
I think he goes sort of top of my list, to be honest with you. Or certainly in there and there. About what he's done at Lille has been absolutely fantastic. He's took them from really struggling in the French league within a couple of years to being, champions and like you said, breaking that sort of decade of PSG winning the title every year. And seeing
There's only them and Monaco who've won it in the last 9 years, I think it is. But PSG have won everything else. So
there you go. So it's not an easy feat to do. And obviously there's been a few videos on social media over the last couple of days. One where he's rolling around on the pitch after Lille score. One where he's in the dressing room, I think. And I don't know what the context was, but it seemed from what I gauged like there was a player who maybe wasn't very happy, or maybe had been sent off, and he just storms in the dressing room and he's climbing on the table and he's showing that spirit and that sort of passion that we all crave and as a football club. And I really like Galtier. I don't know where the rumours stand. Like you said, we've been linked with pretty much every single manager ever at the moment, and there was a French publication yesterday who, separate to Luis Campos' comments, said that Everton had Everton had incested in Galtier, and they've already started opening talks with him. And I think one thing I would say is, when you look at the list of names that Everton are being linked with, and you look at the odds, or you look at some of the managers that were said to be interested in, there's not really, up to now in the last week, there's not really been one name where everybody goes, right, go for him. And it was the same, said to Ned before, it's the same before Carlo Ancelotti come in. There was a list of, you had your Eddie Howe's, your Paulo Fonsecas and all this after Marco Silva had left, and there wasn't really one name that everyone sort of went, yeah, absolutely go to him. And then Carlo become available and we all sort of latched onto that. So we may be looking at a situation where whoever comes in is going to split opinion with the fan base, whether it be David Moyes, Eddie Howe, Nuno, Graham Potter, whatever. But Galtier seemed one last night that, as soon as he was rumoured, now whether people actually, watched Lille last season or know how he is as a manager, and know he's worked with directors of football, sporting directors before, Saint Etienne's board, I believe, spoke very highly of him and said they had a great relationship with him. He works really well with, the director of football there, or the board members there, same at Lille. But I think everyone just sort of went, yeah, that's the man. He's the fella. He's a bit mad in the dressing room. He's mad on the sideline. He's won the league for the first time in however long since stopping PSG from doing it. Go after him. And whether there's any solid rumours in it or solid information in it or not, I think he's one that seems to have galvanised Evertonians. And I'd like him, to be honest with you. I'd like him. I think coming over to England would be a challenge for him. He's left Lille because he said he believes he's taken them as far as he can get. If he comes to Everton, leaves us in 4 years, and as far as he can get with us as champions of England, then I'll take that all day long, mate. So I'm fully on the Galtier train. Now, it mightn't be in half an hour if it comes out that he's signed for Nice and somebody else is in there, but at the moment, I'm on that track.
At this moment, you're on the track. Ned, obviously, was someone we didn't discuss him yesterday because
he wasn't even on the odds yesterday, and he's just shot up. I don't know, but it's not someone I expected to be linked with. Obviously, just won the league. Obviously, Luis Campos is someone I admire, and he's come out and said he'd be perfect for Everton. Then I believe him. So
so you're on the train.
Yeah, I'm not saying he'd be a perfect man because I don't know him enough, but I'm up for it.
You're up for it. See, I obviously know about Lille, watched a bit of Lille. They've got some fantastic players.
Excellent.
But he's not someone I've done extensive research on. But I did do some reading last night and this morning on him. Because I know what he's done with Lille on the pitch. You can see the evidence is there. Some of the players they've had, the young players they've turned around, players who've left the club like Victor Osimhen and Rafael Lau, and obviously Gabriel, who we nearly got and has gone to Arsenal, and there's other players who he's turned, like Renato Sanchez, who was like the big thing, and at Bayern Munich and went on loan to Swansea and didn't do anything, and he'd gone looking for a home, he'd gone there, and he's come back to the fore now. So he's done some really good stuff there. Took Jonathan David, who's a striker who I wanted Everton to get last season, took him from Belgium, he's had a good season for Lille. Done it all. He's used players who maybe others had overlooked or others thought were coming to the end of the career or weren't going to do anything. He's turned them around. But he had, like I said before, he had a good time at Saint Etienne, went to Saint Etienne and really got hold of them and got them finishing higher up the league and in European football and all that. So someone who's very experienced. And being, like you said, being able to break the petrol money of PSG and to win the league is no mean feat, is it? So he's got to catch your attention that way. Plays 4-4-2 as well, which obviously is something that Duncan Ferguson brought back to Everton, and Carlo Ancelotti played it as well. So that might please Richarlison and obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They're the two, because they obviously Dom will be up there, but Richarlison seem to like playing up front as well. So that would please him, looking at the personnel we've got here now, wouldn't it? So he's an interesting one, definitely. And like you said, Cam, we've done these all week, Ned, haven't we? And there's been a lot of, and you will know as well from your streams, there's been a lot of different opinions on managers. And this fella, just what I'd seen a bit of last night and a bit of today, there seems to be the path of least resistance with Galtier. Whether that continues, I don't know, and I haven't seen any polls or done anything like that, but that seems to be someone who people are less argumentative about. Whereas everybody else, the minute we said this yesterday, the minute you throw a name down, someone's on the other side of the net, knocking it back to you with with a reason why they shouldn't, or with somebody else. So it's a dead interesting one.
He's a presence, isn't he? And I think one thing that was always said about Carlo Ancelotti is he's not very vocal in the dressing room. He's not very vocal on the training pitch. He leaves everything to the coaches. He leaves everything to be it Dunk or David. And I don't think that's what Everton need. I think Everton need a manager to come in who is quite vocal and who is quite there, and he's a presence and he's a personality and he's somebody that can get in the dressing room and say, come on lads, that's not good enough, rile the players up. And Galtier seems like that perfect sort of man. Dunk is that man as well, but Dunk obviously hasn't got the experience that Galtier has got in terms of winning a league and taking a team from being in, you know, not the greatest situation to being the champions. Also, Galtier's worked with a director of football before and had a really good relationship with him. So Galtier worked at a Lille with, like you said, a very good group of players, a very good squad and a lot of really talented players. A little bit in a similar way to what Leicester have got, players that people maybe overlooked or thought, you know, they're not that great, but actually turned them into very good footballers. So if Galtier was to come in, everybody else at Everton, i.e. Marcel Brands and the board, would have to pull the finger out and start matching that ambition that he would come with, i.e. providing them with the players to do the job. But he just seemed like a bit of a personality, a bit of a presence, a bit of somebody that players are going to stand up to and go, oh, I don't want to upset him because he's, you know, he's not afraid to come in and have a word in the dressing room, or he's not afraid to show his emotions on the side of the pitch. And for me, I think we need somebody like that more so over than, you know, Carlo had a book, Quiet Leadership, and that might have been brilliant at Real Madrid with Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos, or brilliant at PSG with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but it's not brilliant at Everton with Fabian Delph and Alex Iwobi. So I think we need more of a manager that's going to come in and hit the ground running and be rattle a few cages and be like, yeah, no, do you know what? This is how we do it, and he's constantly like that with the players, rather than somebody that just sort of sits back and watches from afar. And Galtier seems like that type of name, but I'm firmly on the train, mate. Okay, let's have a look at some of the comments. Obviously, the game and Toffee in relation to Galtier to Everton says, I wish. Ford99 says, betting has been suspended on Sky Bet for Benitez. Well, it was yesterday, wasn't it? It was suspended for Eddie Howe. Yesterday just means there's been a pile of money put on it, but it changes each day, doesn't it? Keith Van Santi, who's already said good morning from the US, says, come on, you Blues, let's get a manager in. Aidan O'Kane says, Nuno favourite again on Sky Bet. We'll have a look at the odds in a minute, won't we? Not surprising. No. I mean, obviously, just on Nuno.
Because I think when we done it yesterday, he was going to Palace, wasn't he?
Yeah, if Palace don't want him, then I think that's an indication.
There's an issue there with
Everton,
backroom staff, isn't he? It was rumoured that's why Everton walked away from it a couple of days ago, as to there's something there. Basically, from what I've read, he wants to bring in about 453 million members of a backroom staff, and they all want quite a wedge to do it, and Everton weren't interested in that, and Palace didn't seem to be either. So if Nuno was to come in, he'd have to budge with that. He'd have to sort of make it, and I said it on our team earlier on, I don't know whether Nuno and his agents will now be sitting there going, you've had 2 Premier League clubs now say, nah, you're not having that, we're not dealing with it. Might he have to make a sacrifice? Might have to go, hang on, if I want a job here, if I want to go to another club, if I want to be employed and basically get paid, then maybe I'm going to have to sacrifice. Because
let me ask you this though, where is, at the moment we've got no manager, Spurs have got no manager, and Palace have got no manager. Wolves have just named Bruno Lage today, or Lage today, haven't they, as their manager. So there's 3 Premier League clubs without a manager. He spoke to Palace and it looked like he was going in, it's fell through. Why is he not speaking to Spurs?
Don't know. Maybe Daniel Levy said first of all, before you'd even walk through the door here, you're not bringing that big massive line of people you've got behind you.
Because my kind of point is, who do we want to be competing with? Do we want to be competing with Crystal Palace, or do we want to be fighting with Tottenham? Because we ended up 4 points behind Spurs or something at the end of the season. They're the teams I want to go after. No disrespect to Crystal Palace, who are a good Premier League side, but I want to be going after the likes of Spurs. So for me, I haven't
really seen anyone linked with Spurs though. Have you over the
Galtier
last 24? Has Galtier been linked with Spurs?
I know
Conte, obviously.
But I still think Levy will go back for Conte.
Yeah.
I think they'll weigh in and go back and give him a big wedge to get him. Because I think they're at it. For him, I think he thinks if he could get Conte, then maybe Kane would stay. But I'm not convinced on that. But that's where I think it is. But for me, Nuno, I don't believe. I'd back him 100% if he comes in. There's no question about it. But I don't think he's the right fit for Everton. That's just me personally.
I don't think Levy would go for a Potter or Nuno anyway. I think he would be going after a Conte or a Galtier. That's his supposedly mentality. Obviously, let Poch go to get Jose Mourinho in. I don't know why, because he just put himself in a bit of a mess, getting a completely contrasting different manager.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Josh F says, "Oh, we get Galtier." Sounds ideal. Johnny Robinson says, "No, it's not manager related, but what do you think of the punishment of the Sly 6?
Not surprising, is it? But it's corrupt, isn't it? But we know it's corrupt.
It's a farce, isn't it? Let's be honest. Just over 20 million between the
3.5 million each, I think.
3.333 million each, isn't it? 2 million split between 6. So yeah, 333 million.
20 million. Yeah, it's nonsense, isn't it? It's absolutely nonsense, really.
If it was 20 million each, that would be a big of a joke as well.
It was nonsense when it was rumoured last night that they were deciding their own punishment. They were in negotiations with the Premier League about their own punishment. It's like you go and commit a crime, you go and smash a car up, and then the police go, right, how long do you want in prison for that? Do you want 2 days? Do you want a week? Do you want 3 months? How long do you want? It's an utter nonsense. They've just completely folded over for them. And we know why, because they're the clubs that bring in the most money, and that's all the league care about, is how much money. They don't care about football or it being fair or it being even competition. It's just about how much money they bring in.
Did the 14 other clubs have any say in this punishment, by the way?
They have to vote, they have to agree on it, don't they?
So why weren't they negotiating with them last night?
They probably have, because listen, the 14 clubs could have had these kicked out of Europe and everything, and they haven't. They just sat on their hands and gone, oh no, we'll play nicely, because they bring the money in.
Pathetic.
That's just the way it is.
Pathetic.
That's the way it is. What can we do here? Richard Sparvite says, not too disappointed with this one. Would have liked Nuno, but let's take someone with pedigree if this is true. Mathew Barkley says, all right lads, I like the video already, good lad. Just on Galtier, he was looking up a bit on him. Lille conceded the fewest goals last season, but with the 4th lowest goal scorers, so don't be expecting great football. Yeah, they didn't score a ton of goals, did they? So yeah, I mean, obviously a cautious approach. I think all of them though. I think the ones we've discussed, like Nuno, Wolves didn't hardly score any goals.
No.
Potter with Brighton, Graham Potter hasn't won 10 games in the Premier League season yet.
9 wins in 2 seasons, isn't it?
True, not yet 9 wins a season, yeah. And Brighton didn't score loads of goals. So, you know, when you're just looking through, Eddie Howe hasn't been in, but likes to concede a lot of goals. 70 a season for him. So I think when you're looking through, Rafa Benitez teams don't score a lot of goals. I'm just trying to go through, trying to think through the list of names who've been discussed or people have said they've got a chance of getting it. And, you know, there's not many managers, attacking managers who come with it. I'll tell you one coach whose teams do score a lot of goals is Paulo Fonseca. And they were doing brilliantly, like I said yesterday, they were doing brilliantly till the wheels fell off in February and he got a few injuries and it felt a bit, but they were, his teams are attacking teams, so.
But like with other managers, not every manager ticks boxes that other managers doesn't tick, and Galtier ticks a lot of boxes. The biggest one for me is look at the abilities. Work with the director of football at Lille, and those players that he's working with that he just won the league with are the same type of players, same characteristic, you know, same age and everything. The Marcel Brands will be looking to bring him, you know, 20 to 25, other leagues, young, hungry. So that's a big word. Some of the managers look on the list, he'd be coming in one of their own players as well, wouldn't he?
Yeah, we've got to get a structure going, haven't we, and follow it. I mean, I've seen this one. Toffee Gaming says, I think Nuno doesn't want Dunk on the staff and only wants his own backroom staff. Someone else said that yesterday. I don't believe that to be true, that it's got anything to do with Duncan Ferguson. I think he wants to bring his own 796 staff.
Yeah, and they all want a lot of money.
And it's the money that he wants. And I don't ever believe so far anyway that Nuno to Everton was anywhere near as far down the line as some journalists would like you to think. I really don't. I don't believe it. He was going to Crystal Palace 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think Everton might have said, what are you looking for? Like they will have done with half a dozen managers. But I don't believe personally, because it's just not something I've heard anyway of anyone trusted that it was anything to do with Duncan Ferguson. But it is to do with, I mean, seen something yesterday, this morning, around the Crystal Palace thing, that it was his backroom staff and the wages they want. And he wanted them to buy Adama Traore and Neto. And it's like, well, it's Crystal Palace, mate, for a start. Are Wolves going to turn around and go, take them two players then for 30 million? The Wolves are going to want to buy 70 million for those two, probably at least,
if not more.
So Crystal Palace, where are they getting the money from for that? So if he's asking for that kind of thing, he's living in Clyde Cuckoo land anyway. He needs to shave that beard off and start thinking clearly.
Well, maybe Marcel Brands has sat down and aside to the backroom stuff, maybe Nuno's come to Everton with the same demands about, you know, Traore and Neto. Maybe Brands has gone, no, not paying the money for them too, and maybe the club have listened to Brands and said, all right, fine, that's your decision, because I can't see Marcel Brands wanting to spend 70 million on Adama Traore, because that's probably, let's not forget, Wolves wanted over 150 2 seasons ago for this lad who has got a lot of pace and is a big physical lad, but in terms of his ability at football, he's not that great. So maybe the club have gone, actually, you know what, Marcel doesn't fancy bringing those players in for that money, so you're all right. Well, and that's why, as what I said before about Nuno, maybe adjusting his demands or maybe sacrificing something, because otherwise he's going to be out of a job for a long time, because not a lot of clubs will bow down to those demands. So.
Well, if he wants to stay in the Premier League, he's only really got us and Tottenham, and Tottenham aren't interested, it doesn't seem.
That's it.
And I don't think Everton are as interested as what people are making out, so it'll be interesting.
We'll wait and see.
It's going to be interesting. Pat Mack says, does Galtier speak English? I think he does, but I mean, I don't know how fluid.
I think he had an interview a couple of years ago.
Go on, Cam, sorry.
Oh, I think he had an interview a couple of years ago where he said that if he was to manage in England, he'd have to learn the language.
Forever.
So that was a couple of years ago. So maybe he's learned the language by now.
You know, but listen, people laud Mauricio Pochettino, and he couldn't. He had used an interpreter for ages. Bielsa still uses one, but French. What I find with people like French people and German people and They pick up English. They do English in school.
Yeah.
They can generally speak it better than we can half the time, or more clearly and concisely. It's obviously interpretation at times. What they're trying to say doesn't quite.
It was like Carlo though, wasn't it? Like Carlo can speak fluent English, but got something wrong in a press conference, and everybody jumped on it because he said the wrong phrase.
Marco Silva was the same. Could speak it, couldn't he? But he obviously, sometimes it wouldn't come across maybe the way he tried to speak it or whatever. So. Here's one for you, because we haven't really talked about him, and I've not seen his name on any kind of list. What about Unai Emery? Good evening.
I thought you were going to say Marco Silva for a second.
People will be fuming when he calls us, hello Everton. Hello Everton fans.
No, but let's just quickly talk about Unai Emery, just very quickly.
Bar Arsenal, he's got a very good CV, hasn't he?
Missed the Euro.
We were linked with him before he went PSG, I think, weren't we? Obviously just won the Europa League, done well with Sevilla.
Done fantastic with Sevilla.
So the only thing that would put Everton fans off, and probably put me off, is his time at Arsenal. It's just like he just couldn't work himself out. Could he? The thing with the social media as well, because of the way he's spoken, is he couldn't never get his points across, couldn't he? In his
what was made about his English as well.
I just think he's a brilliant coach, quite clearly. And obviously at Arsenal, I wouldn't say they're much better with Arteta than they were with Emery.
Problem with Emery is
I thought they were better with Emery they were better with Emery than they are with Arteta.
Got them to a
final. Got them to the Europa League final as well. I mean, he's the Europa League king, and if you get in the Europa League, can you just hire him for the season, just to take loan him for the season, because he's incredible, isn't he? But just because he's one who is obviously an excellent manager. But I haven't really seen him. I mean, I don't know what his contract is like at Villarreal, how much you could get him for. But I think he's a good coach as well, isn't he, Emery? But I haven't seen much of him.
Do you think he'd leave Spain to come get another chance in the Premier League?
I don't know. I mean, I was just throwing him out there because obviously he has just won the Europa League the other week. He did do his after-match English. He'd done a press conference in English, didn't he?
Did he?
Interview after the match, about 3 or 4 minutes, and he was good. About hard work and everything else, but I just thought he's a name that could get thrown in.
I just remember at Arsenal they're having a different team, different formation every week, and I remember the Arsenal fans getting sick of it.
That's like Ancelotti with Everton, wasn't it? When I think one of the last 5 games or something, he played the same team 2 consecutive games, but for the rest of the season we didn't see the same. And I know a lot of that was down to injuries, and I get that, but Carlo Ancelotti constantly changed and swapped styles and changed formations and changed players, and
although they were boss in the Europa League final, Villarreal fully deserved it, didn't they?
Yeah, they were.
And he's got a team of players there that are boss at taking penalties, including the goalkeeper.
Including the keeper,
Bring them in.
JS says, "Hi lads, how's it going? Can Duncan manage a champ side for a couple of years, then come back?" Don't know it. He probably can.
That'd be the risk for him, wouldn't it? If it doesn't go well, then it might never end up at Everton, or it could go great and it could land him getting Everton job in the future. So it
was the same risk with the other fellow, wasn't it, across the park? His risk was to wait for 5 years and get, because he would have got that Liverpool job, I think anyway, personally, had he waited, or do a go and try and prove himself somewhere else. And he's done that, and he's gone and won the league again for the first time in however many years since Rangers have won the league. 10 years. So
Where Me Spoon says, "Can we give Luis Campos a job? Lille's recruitment was impressive. I like Gautier, attack and flow football. A lot of young pacey players though would have Celik, Botman, Sanchez, Ikone and Bamba."
Luis Campos has probably had some of the best buys and deals as a sporting director over the past at Monaco and Lille. He's been absolutely fantastic. I like him.
Yes. Liam Munro says, "Galtier is my number 1 choice. I just don't have the energy to talk him up. I think the last 7 or 8 years or more is taking its toll. We as a club need to do better from top to bottom." Absolutely. Archie EFC Marto says, "No matter what, if we wanted Duncan to leave and manage the Championship side, he'll never leave the club. He's loyal till the end." Okay. Sheila says, "Galtier is the only one I feel optimistic about. Love the show. Thanks for keeping us informed." Thank you, Sheila. Lawrence says, "Luis Campos is probably one of the best directors in Europe. So that's big that he's recommended Galtier." This is Nick, because I suppose
it's massive.
It's if you can get a recommendation like that from someone who's so highly rated himself and has done the job, like you just said, at Monaco and at Lille, then, you know, there's probably not many better sporting directors than Campos. You know, obviously there's Monchi, but he didn't really work anywhere else other than at Sevilla, and he's gone back. You know.
Well, the only thing with Luis Campos, obviously, his best dealings have been at Monaco and Lille. They're both French clubs and different league, isn't it? But
spot a player though.
Yeah, he can.
Therefore. Anthony Maguire says, I put a bet on Galtier when he was 33-1. So double win if we get him. I hope you rung the odds, mate, so you get that price. So belter. Mick says, I'd go with Big Dunk or try for Frank Lampard. Getting shut of half of our squad is more pressing than getting a manager in. I mean, we had Dave and Keith Mullen in yesterday. We were talking about the managerial thing. They were not impressed with the list of managers. Both kind of were like, well, off that list then why not Duncan Ferguson, whatever. But one of the things they did say, and it's something we've said as well, of course, we've discussed it, and I think you probably will have said the same, is that I guess the advantage Ferguson's got over others is he knows who needs to be shipped out and who doesn't. Are you concerned that a new manager's going to come in and then there's going to be players getting another chance, like the 14 chance at the club rather than they should be chased?
It is a concern, but for me it falls under the same conversation that we've had a number of times about Marcel Brands and allowing Marcel Brands to do his job and be the director of football. There should be a list of players there that whoever comes in as a manager, Marcel Brands goes, count all of these out because they're not good enough. They've shown time and time again they're not good enough, so don't have them in your plans. If you can get rid of them, brilliant, I'm going to sell them. Because the last thing we need, like you just said, is another manager coming in and going, I want to watch, you know, Andre Gomez for another year. I want to watch Fabian Delph for another year. I want to watch X, Y and Z just to see how well they do, because we're just going to get another year of the same situation that we've had for the last year or two on the bounce, where we know these players aren't anywhere near good enough. They're not quick enough to play in the Premier League, certainly not to play for Everton. So it is a worry, but that's where I think maybe Marcel Brands needs to puff his shoulders out and go, whoever comes in, hopefully he'll have made that decision. Hopefully it will be his choice for whoever comes in as manager and goes, right, okay, X, Y and Z and in the plans for the future of the football club. They're not in my plans in regards to recruitment. I'm already looking at replacements for them, so don't you be thinking that you want to see them for another year or so because they're not good enough. They're leaving if we get a bid, and hopefully the new manager will be able to go, yeah, right, I trust that decision, fine. You bring me 3 new players in that fill those places and I'll work with those 3 new players instead, because, you know, it's a worry, but it's now other people at the football club that are there and have been there for a few years need to step forward and regardless of personal relationships for the club and the future of the club, need to go X, Y and Z. At the end of this season, if Carlo Ancelotti was still here, wouldn't have a future of the club. So why is that changing? Because somebody else has come in. Yeah. You know, Andre Gomez isn't going to drastically improve if Nuno Espirito Santo comes in because he loves Portuguese players. Fabian Delph isn't going to drastically become a player that's, you know, not injured all the time. If Graham Potter comes in, he hasn't got a wand like Harry. So it is a worry, but ultimately that's down to, like I said, Brands now at who's the director of football to make that decision and say there's a number of players here that, okay, if we can't get rid of them, then they're still going to be here, and if we can't get rid of them past the last day of the transfer window and you want to utilise them, whatever, but they're not in the plans for the future and they will be moving on.
Okay. Celtic Vape says, yeah, Galtier will be the man to get us going. Love to see it happen. Josh McCann says, not bothered what anyone says. I want Big Dunk in charge. I get the inexperience and why most people don't want him, but he loves and breeds Everton and he'll give it 100%. Yeah, I don't think anyone could deny that, could they? Dunk will give everything. And, you know, you only get experience by doing it, don't you, I guess?
Pep Guardiola, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Frank Lampard done really well at that with Chelsea for that year that he couldn't sign anybody.
Zidane was given the job with no experience, wasn't he? Pep was Barca B, but yeah,
still come through, and I know everyone goes, "Oh, Pep Guardiola's a money man, this, that, and the other." Still managed to win as many titles as he's won. I mean, there's a lot of managers that have failed with really good players and that haven't been able to go and do that job. So,
what's the difference between Pep and Zidane and Ole to Duncan Ferguson?
They've managed world-class players. And
Duncan Ferguson's
won't be managing world-class players.
More experience as a coach.
Well, there you go, yeah.
Hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's had... What? David Moyes first gave him a coaching job at the club, didn't he? Lower down. And he's been working his whole life hard to
The only
this
thing
moment.
I'd say about the Ferguson thing is just what I find is a little bit strange with what other people have signed that may be missing a point, or not missing a point, but there's a very Dutch thing to give Ferguson the job.
Yeah.
And we've got to, you know what I mean? It's like the likes of what
Yeah.
Ajax do and seems like that.
Ten
which
Hag was the
exactly.
same,
So it's, if you look at brands
Bauer.
and you go, that kind of be the Dutch way of doing stuff. But I understand, obviously, you know.
Duncan Ferguson would also will want to work with Marcel Brands. He won't have any issue with Marcel Brands going, I've got this young 22-year-old fella here who's going to come in. Ferguson would just go, yeah, if he's the right man for the job, bring him in and I'll coach him. Whereas maybe other managers, i.e. an Ancelotti, was a bit more, no, I've got this set of players, they're all 29 and over, and these have to come in. And then, you know, you read it with Ben Godfrey. Carlo Ancelotti said he'd never known of Ben Godfrey, never seen him kick a ball until he had Everton gear on and we'd already spent 20 million on him. Now, luckily, or not luckily, because Marcel Brands has done his research and knows a good player, he's come in, Ben Godfrey, and being absolutely amazing, but it wasn't Ancelotti's decision. It was nothing to do with Ancelotti.
But that's, I guess, if the director of football is running it, that's probably how it should be anyway, because you need to get on the thing of creating an identity, whereas if the manager does fail, you've got another one who knows, who plays a similar way, and he can come in and you don't have to keep going, got 9 players we've got to get rid of now because this manager likes different things. You know, you'd have to, that should be how it's done, but I know it hasn't been.
You can't have a director of football with one identity and one philosophy, and then a manager with a different identity and a different philosophy, bringing in different types of players in the same team, because you're just going to get whatever and at the moment. Exactly. You know, you've got to allow the director of football to create his philosophy and his way of working and how he wants things to move on in the future. And then you bring in a manager that suits that and fits into that mould. Not bring in another manager and go, forget what you've all just done, Marcel Brands, and what you think. Yeah. This fella thinks totally different, so we're going to bring him in and he's going to bring his different ideas in. Otherwise, you may as well let Brands go at the end of his last contract.
And if the manager Marcel brings in doesn't work,
accountable for
then he goes and finds someone, like you said yesterday, get a coach. Always be looking for coaches who can fit your mould. So if the manager isn't working, you bring in another manager, and you don't have to go, right, we've got some of the players from the last manager who was only 18 months, so we've got to get rid of those and get your players.
It's why because we've gone scattergun, it's why we're where we are.
Yeah.
That's
and
what
it's ultimately on the flip side why Chelsea won the Champions League. Because they brought in players last summer, not for Frank Lampard, but for Chelsea and the way Chelsea are and what they do. And they said to Frank Lampard, here's your chance, you can manage those players. He couldn't do it, so they went, right, remove you, we'll put Thomas Tuchel in. And he managed them to a Champions League. And now the same players that everyone was talking about at the start of the season not being good enough and needing to leave are now European Cup winners and are very, very good players, let's be honest.
Perfect example.
There you go.
Murray Blair Park says Galtier is a real possibility, but still a shame Big Dunk isn't a serious candidate. Stan Shepherd says would have liked Laurent Blanc after Silva left, but seems to have walked into semi-retirement circa 2016 before heading out to Al Ryan. Ned, do you want to give us the latest odds?
Aye, let's go. Working backwards, Antonio Conte is now 22-1. I think the biggest odd yesterday was 16-1 on the list, wasn't it? Roberto Martinez has creeped onto the list at 20-1. Don't know how you feel about that. Andrea Pirlo, 20-1. Frank Lampard still on there, 18-1. David Moyes has dropped to 16-1. I think he was about 6-1 a couple of days ago.
Rumours he's about to sign a 3-year deal at West Ham.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Duncan Ferguson has dropped to 14-1. I think it was 4-1 yesterday. Eddie Howe was yesterday's favourite. He's now, I think it was 5-2 yesterday. He's now 8-1. Graham Potter, 4-1. He was the favourite also yesterday at one point at 2-1. Galtier's the first time he's won the list at 4-1, and the favourite again, Nuno Santo at 5-6. He dropped down yesterday to 8-1 after being linked with Crystal Palace, but now that seems it's pretty much over. He's back up to the favourite at 5-6.
Interesting. Craig Stepanoff says Galtier it is. Archie says funny how we went from Graham Potter and Eddie out to Galtier in one day. I hate that on the YouTube things jump. Jay Baggio says only Galtier and Potter might lead success for us. Everyone else linked would at best end up 7th and fall off. Galtier being the more obvious choice but I think Potter with backing could actually do well. Interesting. Manuel Medellin says Galtier realistically the best manager, but Nuno can work his magic to get us those Portuguese jewels. What Portuguese duels? Because it's George Mendes, isn't it, who gets the duels?
Well, they've already got one.
Daniel Beecham says Galtier or Conte, the only two names that have made the majority of fans excited. The rest of them are all mid-table. We've done that before and we've failed. Yeah. Brainerd says we need 4 to 5 players, 2 wingers, a mid and a right back. We need a striker as well.
Yeah, centre back probably, depending on what happens.
Wormy Spoon says the Dutch team is in isolation. Nothing will happen with Dumfries until post-Euros. And if Galtier comes, that must be, we probably get Sheller. Well, they do want Dumfries and they are trying to get the deal sorted, so you can agree it all in principle.
I was going to say...
And he can have his medical with the Dutch team, so...
I was just about to say that, I'm pretty sure he can have his medical while
have his medical, yeah. Loads of players, do we?
Yeah.
Loads of players.
Well, we haven't spoke about Dumfries on YouTube yet, have we? 10 to 15 million, 25 years old. The good thing is that it'd be moving in the right direction. If we did bring him in, it's the right sort of signing we should be looking at, rather than players we've been linked to this season, like players like Isco.
Kieran Trippier.
That's more, Kieran Trippier, exactly. What are your 2 thoughts on Dumfries?
I like him. I think he's a good player, physical, fast. He's of that age, 25, where he's coming in similar situation to when Luca Dean come in. Obviously, we were linked with a lot of younger right-backs early on in the transfer window. Your Max Aarons, your Ridley Baku, and there's always a risk with those players is that they are, because they're very young and they're very raw, there's a risk that, spending that much money on them, i.e. 35 million on Max Aarons, which was rumoured. I remember Fabrizio Romano come out and said Everton are looking at other options, and everyone was like, oh, what's going on? And I said, well, basically what that means is Marcel Brands has gone, I'm not paying that much for him when I can bring in this fella for 10 or 15 million, and Dumfries is that fella for 10 or 15 million. He's already sort of established himself in the Dutch league.
Captain of PSV.
Absolutely fantastic player, and would be coming in and being, he'd come in and be an instant sort of, whereas with maybe Baku or Max Aarons, you'd need to allow a period of maybe a year or so to settle in because they're only young and it's a new team, and for Baku it's a new league. Dumfries would be coming in and expected to sort of hit the ground running instantly like Luca Dean did when
still a new league though.
It is still a new league.
But he's got the physicality, hasn't he?
He's a little bit older and he's got that bit more experience, he's more ready-made. And then hopefully you'd bring in a Dumfries, and then within a year or two you're bringing in a younger right back that's going to replace Dumfries when he moves on, because that's what we failed to do with Seamus Coleman. We shouldn't even be looking for a right back, because we should already have a kid that's going to come in and just move Seamus on, and he's going to step in like Leicester. They thought
John Joe Kenny might do that, didn't he? But it's not. It's a different thing. But you're right. No, you're right. That's how you do it. The process has to be that. When you look over on the left hand side, you've got Luca Dean and you've got Niels and Kunku, and you've got Thierry Small as well, who's left back. So there's 3 there. We're on the right. It's Seamus on his own. Everton Dave says Galtier does not like to concede goals. His team only let 22 in all season. Herman Bjerg says we could give Duncan a chance because he has been standing behind Ancelotti and a couple of other managers, so maybe he's learned something from those managers. But he's worked under the current Real Madrid manager, the current Barcelona manager, and the current Belgian national team manager, so he's got experience that way, definitely. Michael Smith says, all right, Baz, mate, doesn't matter who the manager is, because the fella who runs the club, Managerial, won't let the football expert Brands do his job, so he'll be back to square one in 18 months. Well, let's see, because maybe he is letting him do his job this time, and maybe that's why it's taking a little bit of time.
Yeah. We said that before, didn't we, about if Marcel Brands is making all the signings, then Farad go and get a manager that's a complete contrast and juxtaposes to the signings what Marcel Brands is making, then it's just going to end up where we are again with more players that need to be shifted and without a manager.
It's like the Zaha situation. As I love Managerial, I think he's brilliant, but you could very clearly see that summer when we wanted or were thinking about spending ridiculous amounts of money on Wilfried Zaha, Marcel Brands wasn't even considered at that point. His opinion, his thought was pushed aside, and it was like, we need to go and get this lad because we're going to spend all this money on him. I think the following season Zaha scored 3 goals and got 4 assists, so it needs to just be purely Marcel Brands now. And if Farad Managerial wants to give his 10 pence worth, then Marcel Brands should go, yeah, nice one, mate, but that's not how it works. We're going to go with this fella. Not Marcel Brands saying to Managerial, I think you should go with this fella, and Managerial going, yeah, nice one for that, but I'm going to go and give £55 million a year to Eddie Howe because he looks their boss and he supports Everton. It's got to be Brands making the decision. It just has to be, whether we like him or not. And I know a lot of people are split in opinion with Marcel Brands. He has to be sailing this ship now. And if he fails, you said it the other day, Baz, on one of the teams, then the accountability is fully on Marcel Brands, rather than now we're looking at it going, well, was he a Brand signing? Was he a Ancelotti signing? Was he a Macheri signing? Was that manager coming because of Macheri? And it's like, who takes the accountability? Who takes the responsibility for why Everton Football Club at the moment are pure bang level mediocre? Who is responsible for that?
Yeah, there's literally no there isn't any accountability because we don't know who's making the decisions.
Exactly.
Chris Spurrier says, do you think Campos ran it by Galtier before going public, lauding him for the Everton job? It may say more than we think, and Galtier is throwing out to come and get me plea via his mate. Possible.
That's fine. if he is.
Well, if he is, Everton need to step right on that.
Luis Campos wouldn't put his reputation on the line by recommending a manager who could go sideways.
Well, there's a reason he's mentioned Everton, isn't he? He could have said he'd be great in English football, he'd be great for Spurs, he'd be great for Palace. There's a reason that he's a perfect fit for Everton. I actually, that comment I think might be spot on, to be fair. I think Galtier might have had a little word and said, look, Everton are looking for a manager, I wouldn't mind breaking into the Premier League. Come out and say something quite brief, but also that sort of puts the feelers out there, and hopefully Everton are paying attention to that and not just going, oh, that's nice, isn't it? That's nice of him. Hopefully Everton go, right, okay, if he suits us, he clearly wants to come here, we go and get him. But Marcel Brands might be sitting there going, no, he doesn't suit us, we need somebody else, we need somebody a bit different, who knows?
If it's true, I think they'll go and talk to him, won't they?
Well, apparently, according to Befoot, talks have already begun, according to some rumours, so...
Really?
Lenny Barrett says the Athletic is saying that Palace ended talks with Nuno because his head was turned about potentially becoming the new manager of Everton. See, I don't believe that.
I don't believe that at all.
I really don't, because he knew about Everton, and he will have spoken to him. He wouldn't have carried on. Every other journalist on the story is saying that it was because of his demands. So, I don't know. Mike Flynn says this squad could destroy Dunk. Probably
could destroy a
lot of managers. Hayden Evans-Wood said, I must say I wanted Moyes as he's the only hint of success we've had in my lifetime, but now he's signed with West Ham. I'd love Dunk, but I'm scared of him failing. I don't want to see that. David Snook says, Gallardo, Galtier, Ferguson for me on preference in that order. Herman Bjerg says, I think Duncan could be a good manager for Everton. Trevor Ambridge talking about Polina, says, wouldn't cost for 50 million, more like 30 million. Sport and only got 47 million for Bruno. I thought he got 80. Eugene says, give the Everton manager job to Duncan Ferguson. Nicholas Shimp says, why does it seem that everyone hates Eddie Howe? I get he got relegated, but he kept that team up way longer than it should have been. Got to be worth something. That being said, Galtier is the number one target.
He reminds me of Martinez too much. How many seasons does Martinez have at Wigan and Everton where he's just couldn't stop conceding?
Wigan was 70 goals every season for 4 years. And
I
didn't know how to stop it.
I went and watched them at DW against them, and they got back. They were awful. Played a back five, and it was a shambles. And it was the same in Everton's last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I think that as a manager, you've got to be able to identify an issue, and if you're conceding 70 goals, you need to get to the summer and go, right, we need to do something differently.
Yeah. And they spent 30 million on, or 20-30 million on Solanke, and spent a big load on Jordan Ibe as well.
Ibe and Brad Smith, 3 from Liverpool. Liverpool took nearly 50 million quid off them, and the 3 of them didn't do anything.
Yeah.
What do you think on Moyes, Baz, with Brands? We were sitting here last week, weren't we, and we spoke a lot about it. Obviously, you were away. Do you think Moyes could work with Marcel Brands? Because I really don't. I think Moyes is a manager that likes to go into a club and have all of the responsibility.
Do you know that he hasn't got any responsibility at West Ham for the players?
No. Have they got a director of football?
They haven't, but David Sullivan and 2 agents do their dealings.
It's mad that because...
He has... I think it changed the time before he bought Jordan Hugill, didn't he, for 10 million, and he done nothing. So I think he basically said, and then he went back in. That's not happening again. But it's mad because he was great with the money for us. And
Souček is a proper Moyes signing.
I know, but it wasn't. He wasn't a signing basically. They ran it by him obviously, but he was identified apparently anyway. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of West Ham, but apparently, so the story goes, he was identified. Same with Lingard. You had to be convinced on Lingard.
It's the same,
obviously like... he used them really well and got the best out of them. So
same scheme as well, like loan him in then
But I think
Yeah,
I think with Moyes, and he's signing for West Ham, so we can have the conversation. I think with Moyes, if Everton would have seriously, don't forget he was offered the job in 2019, and then Ancelotti came available and we withdrew. He would know what he's coming back into.
Yeah.
So if Everton were like, do you want this job? Yeah, but you've got to work with Marcel Brands. Then I think he would have done it.
Yeah.
But I think he'd have an input, obviously, because managers will want an input, because otherwise you're dropping people in who they mightn't think fits their thing. But it is a difficult one, the director of football, because I can understand what the theory behind it is. You get this thing set up and it flows, and it means you're covered as a club. It protects the club. It should protect the club. But then if you look at it from a manager's perspective, you've got to think about yourself and what you're trying to do on the pitch with that team. And if someone's dropping players into you, it was like when Spurs, Damien Comolli, I think it was their director of football, and he bought those 7 players for Villas-Boas, and Villas-Boas was like,
he's not afraid to say he likes it if he doesn't.
None
like
of these are any, I think he had Lamella every now and again played, and 6 of them didn't play.
Negredo did he bring in as well?
Not even Marseille. Soldado,
was it? Yeah.
At Marseille, who's this? I'm off.
Yeah.
I quit.
Well, that's it, isn't it? So there has got to be a little bit of a balance, but you understand the director model, a football model, because it is there to ultimately protect the club.
Yeah.
Well, like Cam said, maybe it's time for more of a head coach rather than a manager then.
But I guess that's what it is, though, isn't it, nowadays? If you've got a director of football, you've essentially got a head coach, not a manager.
Yeah. That's it, yeah.
That's how it should work.
That's how it should work.
Because otherwise, you waste them. We're paying Marcel Brands, £1 million a year or something. Then there's no point in being there. There's no point in being there, is there? So you've got to either let him get on with what he's doing, or, because manager things are probably changed now.
Yeah.
The way managers do stuff. Certainly at some clubs. Other clubs, the manager might still have everything, and that's fine, but I think it's too big a job to put on a manager as well as doing the team. But I think you do have to have an agreement that if he's there, then make him earn his money and make him accountable, like we said before. Because if he's just going, I'm the director of football, but you're making I'm the director, but you're making all the things. It's not my decision. So then you're just, really, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
If you're making all the decisions and choosing it,
what's
the point of me just paying me for no reason? So there's got to be accountability, because then if it is Marcel Brands choosing the manager, and it is Marcel Brands choosing a player, then when that manager fails or that player is rubbish, you can go, well, Brands is, what the hell was that? Why you bought him? There's an accountability. But at the moment, we're going, who bought Iwobi?
Yeah.
Was it Brands? Was it Silva?
I said this the other day.
Was it Machiri? Who bought this player? Who bought that player?
I said about Iwobi the other day. I said I think he was a Brands type of player, but I don't for 1 minute think Brands wanted to spend that much money on Alex Iwobi. I seen it as, we can't get Zaha, so who's next on the list? Brands? Well, probably this lad, Alex Iwobi from Arsenal. It might take me a couple of weeks to negotiate. Probably worth it. No, just here's 40 million, go out and buy him. And then Brands has sort of been left with that and gone.
We did pay 28 million for him.
Well, 28 million.
And obviously rising to 34, but we're not going to get to 34.
We get 3.4.
He's not, and he's not going to. No, I mean the fee's not going to rise, because we'll have been getting to Europe, do this, do that. There's no chance. We haven't done anything like it.
Do some patrons.
Go on, get some patrons done.
Keith Desmoney from the US. Chenla, watched some vids on him. Seems like he would suit us the current set of players with his 4-4-2 system and a good age. I'm guessing he's talking about Galtier.
Yep.
Danny says Galtier 4-4-2 would be perfect for us if we brought in a couple of wingers. Absolutely. Detail and Richarlison are incredible at sacking crosses. Get the ball wide and get the crosses in. Yeah, absolutely. Gary Ward, howdy. Philip says, I'd be happy with this appointment, but I'm not totally against Potter or giving Ferguson a chance. Potter plays good football and Ferguson would give everything to make the team succeed. Chandler, go sub to the Mighty Blues YouTube channel. Absolutely.
Nice one, mate. Nice one.
Chad, Galtier looks good, but here Potter's down at Deed Paul changing his name to Gregor Potrier.
Every time I hear the name Potter, I think of Harry Potter and Phoenix Knights. That's all I can just think of you going, Potter.
Potter. Scared Potter. Mike, do you think
Why does Ron Weasley say that?
No, it's...
No, it is. Oh, he's walked into it.
That meant to be some sort of joke.
The pair of yous walked straight into it. Carry on, Ned.
Oh, because Ned... I didn't even get onto that either. Oh, I've had a nightmare.
I don't think that's very funny.
Did someone not yesterday?
Someone called me Rupert Grint yesterday.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my God. This was probably after Ned had done us up like kippers, reading false rumours out and claiming Alan Myers.
I was following and a notification off for the wrong Alan Myers, but because he had 4.
Not only Alan Myers, he had he was quoting Paul Joyce as well. Ned just randomly.
That was someone in the comments.
Some kid in the bedroom in the Bills, like saying he was Paul Joyce, and Ned was reading it out like it was verbatim.
I read the comment and said that's fake.
Carry on with the Patreon comments, Ned.
Mike says, "Do you think we'll end up in a bidding war with Spurs for Galtier? In my opinion, would Spurs be a better proposition for him?"
Probably.
Maybe. RCO2, if we get Galtier or Potter, then we can see what direction the club is heading. If we get Nuno or Howe, then it shows we're mucked up from top to bottom.
Okay.
Hakun says, if we can get Rich and Dom to get along, he's a magician and can do anything. Well, they only had one good season together prior to last, didn't they? And the last season they just went playing. They played best when Richarlison was playing off Dom, but it didn't really go down great last season.
I think somebody brought up a good point before about balls into the box. I mean, it's very clear what's successful for Everton. We've got 2 forwards, one specifically who can jump the height of a regular
highest scoring team with headers.
There you go. And another forward in Richarlison, let's be honest, there's a good head of the ball. He showed that against Wolves. So why we don't just insist on putting constant crosses into the box is beyond me, because that's how Dominic Calvert-Lewin's bread and butter, and Richarlison's very good in the air as well. So
some teams can just head the ball away, and then that's your only hope.
No, I'm not saying it should be our only hope, but I think we should utilise it a lot more than what we do.
When you've got a winger who's
should be turning teams a lot more than
when you've got a winger who's got 15% crossing success a game.
Well, we haven't got any wingers, have we?
Well, Iwobi's crossing success is 15% per game. You have to rely on Luca Dean, but if you only play Luca Dean, then all I have to do is nullify him.
Yeah, or open the space behind him.
Yeah. Side Jukebox says, TalkSport saying we are in talks with Galtier. Fingers crossed, exactly what we need. Transform the team. Ignore just seen from a fake account. We're in talks with them. Well, no. We're supposedly linked with them anyway. I wouldn't say we're in talks.
What a roller coaster that was. I got dead excited then, and then it just...
Daniel
does this to you?
Yeah. That was Sai.
Let me down.
Sai. Daniel says, would love Galtier. Can see him go into Spurs though. If he did come to us, would love to see if he could do anything with Iwobi. Personally, if Iwobi tells him where he wants to play, that is. Personally, I think there's a decent player in there. Georgie Redmond says, seeing the news on Stuttgart or Mangatuka playing under a false name and is 22, not 21.
Yeah, didn't I see that the other day?
At least he's not 37.
So that's not his actual name? No.
Oh,
that's quite a big, long name to make up, isn't it?
We might have to release him.
He's boss on FIFA, though. Boss on our FIFA.
Richie says, all right, lads, from San Diego. I'm convinced it's Dunk's time. It's a no-brainer. He knows the plays. He's done his apprenticeship big time, and there's another more dedicated. Is there another more dedicated blue? All this BS about he's not had the experience. Didn't every great manager have to start somewhere? Yeah. And Jack says, with all the managers we're being linked, all have different preferred formations. 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 5-2-3. For example, what formation do you think suits our squad best? And what would be our preferred formation? Well, hopefully, what would be your preferred formations? Well, hopefully we get new players in who would allow us to play more attacking football, which is what we want, and bring in a manager who can do so. So, right now, our squad probably suits, I don't know, a back five maybe, like we played under Carlo. Our biggest strength is... we
haven't got any wide players other than
defending. So, but hopefully the signings will change that. We've not made any signings yet, and whether we do, we don't know. We don't know yet for certain. Hopefully we do.
His real name's Silas Katompe Mvumpe. He's 22, not 21.
So why did he lie?
Because he was fearful of repercussions in the Congo. He's been running from people in the Congo.
So is Wamangituka a completely made up name then?
Well, his made up name is not his name. He's just like the name.
So what's that one of them random generator things?
I don't know.
So can they just get his contract and just go?
No, because they kind of knew about it. So.
Oh, so on his contract will probably be his real name.
So can he get a ban for that now then?
I think it said they've avoided any sanctions.
It's fraud technically, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So what would he be? Will he be known as his proper name now?
Possibly, yeah.
Will he just go with the Hulk vibe where he just continues
Just carries
to be
on
known as
using his Wamagatsika.
Because Hulk's real name isn't Hulk, is it?
David Banner.
Hey, it's not David Banner, it's Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner.
I mean.
Oh.
It was David on.
Baz.
It was David on the series,
I've
wasn't
got
it?
Banner. Got
Yeah,
the
well,
surname right.
But he-
No, it was on the Incredible Hulk, the series. When you would have watched it when you were a lad, it was David, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was David Banner, yeah.
And then
See, I
they
was
cha-
right,
and then he
see.
changed it.
When it was
When I was a lad, it's
Lou
Bruce
Ferrigno
Banner.
years
Yeah.
ago, mate, in the 80s.
Was that
then
when he
was-
just used to
was-
paint?
Oh no, he
David
wasn't
Banner.
David. He was just Hulk, wasn't he? The bloke who played David was just some random bloke.
You know what? You two need to just get a podcast of just boring
Incredible.
conversation.
Marvel.
And we already got one of them.
Yeah. Liam Rigby says thoughts on the Canadian striker for Lille. He could come in if we bring Galtier. Jonathan David. We could have got him last year and we didn't.
He's only like 20. Isn't he,
20,
as well,
21. Fast as anything. Aaron Yates says if Dunk becomes manager once he's finished, that will be it for him. The club wouldn't it? If he gets sacked. Yeah, if he got sacked, that'd probably be it with it, yeah. Which is why it's a huge gamble for him himself, putting his neck on the line, really. Because if it goes wrong, that's it, he's done, isn't he?
Well, he said, didn't he, before Ancelotti come in, that he doesn't want the job, he wants the best man for the job, he wants the best coach to come in and do it, and Ancelotti at the time was the best man for the job, and now, obviously, what's happened, and now it seems that Dunk is more sort of, yeah, go on, I'll take the job. So there's obviously a reason that mindset has changed and that decision has changed, because Dunk could still sit here now and say, no, I'm still where I was in November 2019, I want the best man for the job, but there's obviously a reason as to why he's thinking, no, actually, do you know what, maybe this is my time. But listen, I said to Ned before in the podcast, the Dunk situation's a bit like Marmite, isn't it? You're either all for it or you're completely all against it. It really is splitting opinion 50-50.
Interesting. Is that the Sky Sports France, was that the black tweet that you read before?
Someone put it in the thing, yeah.
It's on here. Sam Yak saying Sky Sports France, saying Galtier to Everton is a done deal.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
That, yeah. Jacob Rees-Boggs says Galtier is a huge risk. It'll end in tears with another foreign manager who hasn't got a clue about English football, millions down the drain, and another manager hunt January 2022.
There's risk with every
manager. Who are you going for then, Jacob? Who should be the right man if it isn't him then?
There is risks with every single manager.
Yeah.
And there is risks with Carlo Ancelotti, hence why he's now not an Everton. The risk with Carlo Ancelotti, which I wish I would have known in 2019, was, yeah, we've got this fella in and he's dead boss and he's won loads of trophies. But there is something in his contract that says if certain clubs come in for him, he can go free of,
but surely, come on, how old are you? You're not 22. You're not naive.
No, I know. I'm not. I know.
Yeah, but when he's telling you, "Oh mate, just
I know, but I'm not saying I don't expect that to be in there.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I don't expect that to be in there. I'm not surprised by the situation, but that shouldn't be there.
But what about if you're Everton and you're sat down the table, right, and you've got Carlo Ancelotti? I'm not defending him. I'm just playing devil's advocate. You've got Carlo Ancelotti down the table, right? And you've got Mashiri and Usmanov who were there, and he goes, his agent goes, he wants to come, he wants to commit to you. But if Real Madrid come in for him, he wants to go back there because he feels like he's got unfinished business or whatever. That's the only club. He's not bothered. Anything else he'll have bloody blah. And you're sat there going, Ancelotti, Rafa Benitez or David Moyes. And Ancelotti's opposite, won Champions Leagues and all that. And you're going, he's just been let go by Napoli, 61. Real Madrid aren't coming back for him. So, yeah, I'll agree to it.
Yeah, I saw...
Otherwise, if he gets up and walks out the room, you've got David Moyes or Rafa Benitez. Usmanov, clearly.
I get it and I see it. I just think it puts that sort of thing in your mind, doesn't it, of that instability.
I think what you're after having your mind, Cam, and I feel like I have to tell you this as, someone who's been 22, followed Everton, is that...
At least you got to see things, win things at that age.
You can't get attached to anybody.
Yeah.
Don't believe a word they say. Don't get attached to them. A lot of these managers people want will drop Everton like that.
Yeah, and players.
The minute something comes, they'll be gone. Yeah. Unless Everton are at the very top, and in some cases, they'll still drop them.
Yeah.
So... it's why I know a lot of people are like, no, just give it to Dunk because he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
He won't, even if we were amazing and United and all.
That's why I don't want Conte.
But Conte do it. Conte will drop Everton.
And Conte would tell you he'd do it.
Conte will drop Everton in a heartbeat, and a lot of managers would.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is, because we have to build ourselves up to the point where we're an exciting prospect to stay with. At the moment, we know we're a big club and all that, and we love it, but to other people, but just what are we with mid-table mediocre? We don't do nothing.
Yeah.
We don't get relegated. We don't win anything. We're just in the middle.
Yeah.
We don't even get into Europe.
Purgatory.
We are, aren't we? We're just bob around between 8th and 12th, and that's who we are.
Yeah.
And we've got a fanatical fan base that wants us to do better, so it's difficult. And we've had scattergun approach on managers and scattergun approach on players over the last few years. So we've arrived where we are now, which is stuck in the middle with you.
The train stopped.
So we've got to get it going again.
I just feel bad for Pepper Mills. He would release love songs about Carlo and everything, and now he's...
Don't feel
You feel bad because you want to get on the tune with it?
Pepper's
tunes
all
are
right.
class.
Oliver Johnsai says we need to go back to our roots. We need someone long. We someone long team. We need Dunk and Andre to look at everyone in the 13 and youth team and go back on the front foot. Okay. Wormy Spoon says, why didn't Dunk do those things? Not like he was there, the number 2, it isn't logical. Depends what he's allowed to do though, doesn't it?
Like I said, he can advise Ancelotti on whatever he wants to. But he could say, bring him off, he's had a dreadful game, and bring this fella on, and Ancelotti might go, no, I'll keep him on and I'll put Fabian Delph while we're searching for the goal.
I think it's difficult.
There's a
coaches can only do what they can do. I've even heard David, I listened to that sometime last year, listened to the coaches thing with David, a podcast, and he was like, I disagree with Carlo all the time. Yeah. And he was like, I'd say this to him, and he goes, oh, yeah, but we're doing this. Yeah. He said, at the end of the day, he's the manager, and that's the way it is. So, Duncan will do the same, and Carlo just go, boss that, Dunk, nice one. This is what we're doing, which is totally the opposite of it. So I just think it's quite difficult. People who level that and go, he should have done that when he was there. It's not. If you've ever been anywhere hierarchical, any job you're in, job you're in, you say something to a line manager or a manager or whatever,
or
they just go,
shut up, Ned. Sit over there.
Exactly. But if you say something, you've got no say in what people do above. So
we know we had no influence on the Silva as well. Look at the difference between Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Silva left. 2 days, or whatever, a couple of days after Silva got the sack, we went to 4-4. He said, I'm going to play 4-4-2. The next week, I'm going to play Holgate in midfield. He transformed Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Dom said, didn't he, his best memory at Everton was that Chelsea game because of the Duncan Ferguson connection. That's what he said. Ben Godfrey said, the derby, I think Mason or Tom Davis said the derby, and Dom said, no, it's the Chelsea game, the Duncan Ferguson game, because of the relationship I've got with Duncan Ferguson. So it's close to the players, and he's got a good relationship with the players.
Develop Rom, develop Dom.
Yeah.
All good. Joshua Morrison says, how is Galtier more of a risk than Potter? What has Potter done? What has Potter won? Where are we? Jacob says, Baz, the only stipulation for me is you've got to have had experience in Premier League football. Pep and Klopp are exceptions for that. So for me, Ranieri would be a decent appointment. Bit old, isn't he? But then I'm saying Favre and Rangnick, and they're old as well. So
Mourinho was an exception as well when he first came to Chelsea.
Yeah.
So what about if Liverpool can go get Klopp, who had a year at Dortmund, or not a year of success at Dortmund, I mean.
And then he won the league twice on the run.
Well, like the last year was he finished 10th or something, and then went and got him. So why can't that advocate Galtier, who's just had success with Lille?
No, I know. It is.
These managers only become exceptions when they're a success in England. Galtier might come and be a success, and then people go, can't go and get that manager because Galtier and Pep and Klopp are an exception.
No, it is. But I understand what he's saying.
I get what he's saying.
It's difficult. Like I said, I've said all week, I can't sit here to someone on the other side of that screen and go, your opinion's wrong and mine's right, because I haven't got a clue. Yeah. I'm just looking at it from my perspective and looking at it from what I think my club should be. Yeah, my club, for me, minimum should be qualifying for European football every season. That's what I think. Everton, minimalistic. 7th place. If Everton can't get 7th place every year, there is something wrong. We've got a fanatical fan base. We're owned by 2 billionaires. We've got a tremendous history about us. We've still got, I think, some good players in that squad. And yet other clubs seem to be able to leapfrog us and just do whatever they want. And we seem to be almost fighting within ourselves, even as a fan base, fighting within ourselves. And the club seems that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. It seems. We don't know because we never get told.
Yeah.
And we just swirl around in a pit of misery each year. When really, with structure and with a bit of planning, and with actually following that, we all want to get on board with something. We all want to get behind someone. The club. But at the minute, we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot. We keep taking backward steps then we don't need to. We keep making wrong decisions. And we have to get this right.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's wrap this up. I think we're probably just rambling and people are probably getting bored. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. If you want general football, get over and subscribe to the Footy Show. We're going to do a live, I think, in about half an hour on the Footy Show. Just some general footy, not Everton stuff. So really appreciate it if you subscribe to the Footy Show and joined us in about half an hour. Just let's race through these last few ones. Steve Fallow says Galtier or Rangnick.
Galtier for me.
Okay. Mick Anderton says, from 8 minutes ago, Everton chairman Bill Kenwright has spoken to David Moyes about potentially becoming the new Everton manager. I mean, that's been bouncing around for a while, hasn't it? Ian Clark says Duncan is obviously in the wings if the board can't get anyone they think is better. Mark Swain says Potter is not for me. He's crap without Ron and Hermione. Rowan says Potter knows the Prem and speaks the language fluently, something which should be factored in. His style of football is exciting and set to explode with a striker like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Jacob says Leicester won the league, then sold Mahrez and Kante. How was Rangnick? He's supposed to improve then. I don't know whether he might be talking to someone else, I think. Maybe not us. Okay, I'm just looking at that. Live in 4K says all EPL Super League teams are being fined 20 million.
Not all.
No,
20 million.
20 million combined, yeah. This money will be part of all teams' FFP. Okay.
What, 3 million each? 20 million between 14.
I know, I don't think Chelsea will go in for Hakimi now. I don't think they can afford it with that 3 million fine. 56
million a bid, aren't they? Danny Morton says a Toffee TV pit of misery t-shirt sounds like a winner. Yeah, no, Dan, I apologise for that. Trying to stay positive. Sam Yak says Galtier or Fonseca. Nick H says, where's Vita Pereira? He was mentioned, wasn't he? The minute Carlo went. Absolutely berserk. Marty Hutch says Potter would be a steady option. Kendall came from nowhere. Eugene says, are you doing a fantasy football league for the Euros? No, mate, I'm not. I don't know whether the lads are.
We are on Patreon. For our patrons, we have a Super Brew Predictor League.
Live in 4K says he thinks it's 20 million each, 120 million. It's 20 million combined, mate.
Combined.
That's what's being reported anyway. Hit the like button if you're watching. We'd appreciate that. Thank you very much. Right, nice one. Ahmed says, why not give a chance to Duncan? Maybe they will. We don't even know if Duncan wants it, do we? He's not said it anywhere, has he? So
no, just
we'll just see. We'll just see. Right, listen, take it easy, everyone. Like I said, if you want to just join in a live chat in about 25 minutes because you're bored, we'll be over on the Footy Show channel. We'll be just discussing other football stuff as opposed to Everton over there for about half an hour. So come and join us if you fancy it, if you've got nothing better to do. And we will see you there. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and we will see you later. Take it easy. Ciao.